Some mysteries are never solved. Some files are left to gather dust, frozen in time. What if you could commit the perfect crime? A crime so audacious, so flawlessly executed that you could simply vanish? On a cold November night in 1971, one man did just that. He bought a one-way ticket, hijacked an airplane with quiet courtesy, and then leaped from 10,000 feet into a raging storm and into legend. He was never seen again. This is the story of D.B. Cooper, America's greatest unsolved mystery. November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. At Portland International Airport, a man in his mid-40s dressed in a dark business suit, a white shirt, and a black necktie walked up to the counter for Northwest Orient Airlines. He purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle, paying with a $20 bill. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. He was passenger 18C. Witnesses on board Flight 305 described him as quiet, polite, and unremarkable. He ordered a bourbon and soda and smoked a cigarette. But shortly after takeoff, as the Boeing 727 climbed through the cloudy skies of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. Thinking it was just another lonely businessman's phone number, she slipped it into her pocket. Cooper leaned closer. "Miss," he said calmly, "you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb."
I have a bomb.
The note was written in neat, all-capital letters. Florence's blood ran cold as she read the words. Cooper then asked her to sit beside him. He opened his black briefcase just enough for her to see what was inside. A terrifying maze of red wires, a large battery, and what looked like 8 sticks of dynamite. The threat was real. His demands, relayed to the cockpit and then to law enforcement on the ground, were precise and clear. He wanted $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, and he wanted 4 parachutes, 2 primary chutes, and 2 reserve chutes. He was calm, calculated, and completely in control. As news of the hijacking reached the ground, a frantic effort began. The FBI scrambled to gather the cash, photographing every single bill. The parachutes were sourced from a local skydiving school. At 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Cooper ordered the pilot to taxi to a remote, brightly lit section of the tarmac, away from the main terminal. He demanded the cabin lights be dimmed to deter police snipers. For the next 2 hours, a tense exchange took place. An airline employee brought the cash-filled knapsack and the parachutes aboard. In return, Cooper kept his word. He released all 36 passengers and 2 of the flight attendants. They scrambled down the stairs onto the wet tarmac, relieved but shaken, having just been inches away from a man who now held a fortune. But Cooper wasn't finished. He kept the flight crew, 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant as his hostages. He ordered the plane to be refueled. His new destination? Mexico City. Cooper's final instructions were bizarrely specific. The plane was to fly at a low altitude of 10,000 feet. The landing gear was to remain down, and the wing flaps set to 15 degrees. This kept the plane at a slow, stable speed of just under 200 miles per hour. It was the perfect condition for a skydive. At approximately 7:40 p.m., the plane took off from Seattle, heading south. The flight crew remained in the locked cockpit. Cooper was alone in the dark, empty cabin with his fortune and his parachutes. Around 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit, indicating that the aft air stair, the retractable staircase at the back of a Boeing 727, had been opened. The pilot asked over the intercom if Cooper needed any assistance. His reply was the last anyone ever heard from Dan Cooper. "No! he shouted back. At 8:13 p.m., somewhere between Seattle and Reno, over the dense, freezing, and storm-lashed forests of southwestern Washington, the aircraft experienced a sudden upward movement in its tail section. The crew knew what it meant. He had jumped. Dan Cooper, with 20 pounds of cash strapped to his body, had leaped into the heart of a raging storm, into the black of night, and vanished from the face of the earth. The moment the plane landed safely, the largest and most expensive manhunt in U.S. history began. 5 military helicopters, troops on the ground, and local law enforcement scoured the vast, rugged wilderness. Below the flight path, they searched for a body, a parachute, a briefcase, anything. They found nothing, not a single trace. For years, the FBI investigated thousands of potential suspects, but every lead went cold. The case became a media sensation, a modern folk legend. Was Cooper a disgruntled veteran, an aviation expert, or just an ordinary man who pulled off an extraordinary crime? No one knew. The case remained completely cold until 1980, 9 years after the hijacking. A young boy named Brian Ingram, vacationing with his family along the Columbia River, was digging in the sand when his fingers brushed against something rotten. He pulled it out. It was a decaying bundle of cash. The FBI confirmed the serial numbers. It was a small fraction of the ransom money, just $5,800, but it was real. The discovery only deepened the mystery. Did Cooper lose some of the money during his jump? Did he bury it there and never return? Or did he perish in the wilderness, with the rest of his fortune lost to the elements? To this day, the D.B. Cooper case remains the only unsolved skyjacking in American aviation history. The FBI officially closed the active investigation in 2016 after 45 years of dead ends. The man known as Dan Cooper was never identified. His fate remains a complete mystery. Did he survive the treacherous jump and live out his days in quiet anonymity, a modern-day folk hero? Or did the freezing winds and unforgiving wilderness claim him that night, his bones and his fortune still lying somewhere deep in the woods? We may never know.